the sheriff.
Okay, so we'll open the word of prayer and we are doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Heavenly Father, we thank for this day. We thank for this opportunity to meet together as county officials to try to do good for our county. We ask that you be with all of our employees and our constituents in the county, keep everybody safe. Watch over our public health department, be with them as they continue to fight this pandemic. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So good morning, everybody. We do roll call, Aubrey?
Here.
Commissioner Glover,
Here.
Commissioner Noster.
Here.
Okay. Everybody had a chance to look over the agenda. Did we have any changes or additions that we needed to?
I needed to clarify that you're also approving the Board of Health and DSS minutes, part of your minutes approval. I did not list that specifically on your agenda.
The Board of Health, what?
Minutes,
Okay.
and I think you had DSS. Aubrey, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah, DSS also.
Did we have dates on them or?
I'm gonna look to Aubrey for that.
Yeah, so I think it was DSS on the 20th and the 27th, and then just Board of Health on the 27th.
That's correct.
So that's in addition to the agenda. So do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept the agenda as presented with the adjustments with the corrections.
Okay,
Second.
the motion is second to approve the agenda as presented with the additions. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, public comment period, 3 minutes for any public who wants to speak. No decisions will be made. Nobody in the room here, anybody in the chat room?
Nope, no requests.
Okay. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Public hearings, we have none. Consent agenda. Everybody look at the consent agenda? Do we have a motion or movement on it?
I'll move we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we just flow into this. We don't have to come out and go back in and all that stuff for the, we do?
No, just make
just
it clear
flow.
that you're now acting
Okay.
as the Board of Health.
Okay, we'll be entering this, the Board of Health session here for just a second. Actions on the Mountain Plains Regional Disaster Health Response System.
Yeah, good morning,
Is
everyone.
that yours?
Yeah, so I mean, we've had the discussions on these 2 grants before. The decision was made and the first one that was approved, but the board wanted to review the budget once it is drafted. And just retrospectively, it was a grant that was approved in September as of 95. It was $95,000 then, and recently we got another addition of $14 on top of it, so it came up to 109. So the concept and the proposal, the contract was presented last time, and that was approved, but there was no agenda. There has never been an agenda. I mean, sorry, there's never been a budget. So today I'm presenting the budget to the group for approval. That is one. The second one is a budget of $20,000. And that one is to encourage our SLVHCC to work closely with the state and DHHA, Denver Hospital Administration, concerning a pilot project that is sponsored by Aspire, the Office of Assistance of Preparedness and Response. And then when that also was presented, though it was reviewed and discussed upon, but a substantive decision was not made then. And at the same time too, there was no budget presented during that period. So today I'm presenting both the budget for the $109,000 and the other one of $20,000.
Is this part of the all clear thing that's gonna happen? This is another all
These
clear,
are all
event,
different budgets.
but they're all part of several things that all clear is contracted for, right?
Not really. These
Okay.
are all part of several things, all part of HCC. That was the 143,000, our base foundational budget. That's a part. That was the 45,000. That was an overage that we got a budget for spending. We're doing that. And there was also another $25,000 for equipment, which we're purchasing for the hospitals and also for the EMS, auto contamination. Now there was this 95,000 that was hanging on since September. But with that addition, like I said, addition of 14,000, there's never been a budget, so created a budget now. I just need you to look through it and then.
So am I missing something here? On the budget, I don't see a budget, I just see some deliverables.
Judy, did that make it into the books? Because it came out late in an email.
I did not get it for packets. So what's in your
Okay.
packet is the HCC contract for Mountain Plains Regional Disaster Health Response System.
And that is gonna be part of, all clear is working on that.
From the state level,
Yes,
they're
it's all
working on
clear.
that. It's all the regional HCC expected to, part of the work plan is to work with them. And at the same time also get our committees to work on regional tabletops and all this other stuff that we're supposed to do, just to be part of the state.
The state has a program.
Yeah,
The
but
money
we're not
that,
paying all clear from the 20,000.
no, we're not paying, that 20,000 is for our public health participation in that
SLV
regional
region.
for the HCC. That's that 20,000 is for. Everything else is covered by state funding at the high levels. Okay.
And if you see the budget, the way I broke it down, it covers my time, some of my time, 0.04% FTE, and also our indirect is specifically indicated. The rest will be spread across the committed members of the steering committee of HCC.
I understand. And the 109,000, how is that being spent? I don't see that.
It's
I
in
don't
that
know
same
whether you
email.
have that.
Yeah, it's a link we didn't get in.
Oh, you didn't get that, but it's
No.
part of the email that I submitted to you. Though it came out late because they were back and forth.
Mhm.
If I presented anything to you, I wanted to be sure that it's gone around to the co-chairs and then get it all through. But the final approval comes here. So I probably will send this the same approach. It covers 0.08 of my time, the 10%. And one other thing I probably should also let you guys know that is coming out of the realization of HCC. When the program coordinator was hired, she doubles as the operational coordinator and the readiness and response coordinator. So for you to be able to do that, you have to be a resident of the county. So right now, we contracted to All Clear to help us with all our pending deliverables. They can only do those as operational coordinators, but they cannot be readiness and response coordinator because they are not resident of the county. So that actually falls on me as the readiness and response coordinator. So you will see in the budget of the 109, there are some deliverables that they cannot work directly on, but we fall on the readiness and response coordinator. And that's me. So that is also put in there.
Now, you said resident of the county, is it really resident of the valley or is it resident of the county?
Because we're a
The
region.
valley?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that region.
Because they are not local.
Mhm.
But other clause 2 is we take up as the readiness and response coordinator, but we can still subcontract some pieces through the 109 to them to complete. But we are the one in charge of that.
You are.
So what is it, what does that amount to as far as time?
What?
What does that amount to as far as time on your part?
So my piece as the fiscal administrator and the contract manager, I put 0.08%. Then the pieces where the deliverables, there are some key deliverables that definitely I personally would not have time to really commit to that.
Mhm.
So you see on some lines, 5,000, 3,000 or so, that'll be subcontracted. I did not mention all clear, could be anybody within the region that has the expertise to be able to do that.
So we're just looking for approval of that now. as presented.
Yeah, and that's pretty much spelled out. I saw it on the, I didn't print it because I thought it was in the packet. I didn't pay attention to go back to it. So we'll entertain a motion on approval.
Flip coin. Go ahead.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
A motion second to approve the, what's the title on that? Mountain Plains Disaster Plan.
That's one, and this one's a separate one, right?
The 109.
The 109 is another
separate.
program.
The other thing you will see on the 109 too is this idea of, the philosophy of the RGCC is to be able to galvanize the community together to resolve issues. There are so many ways to get about that. One way is to come up with some mini grants projects that each entity within the region can bid for. And then we will review their bids, and based on all the deliverables, those who meet the requirement, we'll give them money to go and do the work.
Mhm.
So that will alleviate some of the burden on public health, but also will enhance the ability of people to actually do this on a daily basis within the region to be able to do this stuff. So you see the allocation in there. Mini grants, I think it's about 77,000 spread across. And we should also remember that this is a fund that has been appropriated since September. I only have 5 more months, only 5 months to get it done. And there was never a budget, but now we have a budget to work with.
Would that be the subcontractor entity names, the 98,000? Would that be the mini grants?
I think it's 77 in there. I hope I gave you the right one.
There's one up here, training, exercise, personnel services is 7,600. Supplies, operating expenses, 0. Travel, we don't worry about that. Contractual is 98,000, and then indirect of 10.
You see the subsection, how it is broken down. There's a column with the description of mini grants projects.
I don't see that. Not that,
Yeah, but when you see a big bunch of that allocation, it is to encourage mini grant to be given out to.
so part of that $98,000 would probably be the mini grant side of it. Gotcha. Who's this one?
So, COVID has not allowed folks to come together, but people are still doing their work. Technically, if there's funds given out to experts that are part of the coalition, and they can render their expertise and be paid for through the funds, through the state. So the money is still residing within the region.
So is our motion on this is?
Well, we have 2 contracts. I
Yeah,
assume we
the
need a
other is
motion for
20,000.
each. Right.
Okay, so this is the first one I was asking about, so.
Okay.
And
You
we
made
made
a
a motion second, so
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
There's
so
that.
that one's done.
Yes.
Now on the $20,000 one that we have, okay, we've talked about it quite a bit. Everybody had a chance to study that pretty good? Everybody good with it?
I move that we approve the Mountain Plains Regional Disaster Health Response System contract.
Second.
A motion second, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you have your second shot?
Yes, but not on camera right now, so. But the other thing I just wanted, I'll be bringing this to your notice too. We're getting some funding from the state concerning immunization. The original grant that we have was total 12,083 cents. But there is some additional funding from the feds and also from the state, which help our original allocation from 12,000 to 134,000. So, and that will take us to 2022, but I need to also come up with budget. One thing I'm realizing with the state, your state won't give you the budget. They just throw money at you, but you have to go inside, which is a
Go
learning
figure.
thing for me, because when I'm seeing all these contracts, sign this contract, sign it. No, we don't do that. You gotta have a budget to justify it. And then I inherited a lot of no budget, but there's contract. So I'll be bringing in budgets, and then having to explain them to you what my line of thinking is.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of under the weather today.
You want this back?
Yeah, I do. So that's what I got today.
Okay, good deal.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Doctor.
Okay, Patrick, you're on deck.
Nice to see you.
Actually,
Back to regular board.
back to regular board. I'm sorry. I was
So we completed the parking lot at the refuge, like we discussed. That was a 7-day project. We continued the engineering work on the one south. Completed the HETF report, and that's been submitted. Again, multiple snowstorms have occupied a lot of our time. The weld shop was asked to build a holding tank stand for the maintenance department here, for the new boiler or something with the boiler. That was taken care of, and the weld shop has completed a snow pusher that we're gonna try as part of our ongoing mitigation of the suburbia subdivision. So we're gonna try a little different approach there with some different equipment. For the month, it's already half over. We'll continue to work on the one south. We start pushing grade today on it. Again, we'll attempt to pick up our tank in Nucla. There was snow all this week. Operator's gone next week, so we're looking at the week of the 22nd to maybe start that. We'll continue to grade. The weather is pretty nice. We're doing a lot of runoff mitigation right now with the warm weather and the winds. And then I'll meet with the airport maintenance and the maintenance staff here to talk about their crack seal projects that they have discussed in general on a very broad spectrum. So we'll get to looking at that. The other thing is I sent in the proverbial packet regarding asking for approval to purchase 2 steam cleaners. Again, we budgeted for them last year. The budget was approved in December of 2020. The machines that we're replacing are somewhere between 20 and 25 years old. It's an integral part of our maintenance program and our keeping our fleet up and running. And so with that being said, on the quote that you have, it lists an 843 and an 853. We don't need a 3,000 PSI steam cleaner. So I'm requesting to purchase 2 of the 2,000 PSI, which are the 843s. Again, these come with a reel and 100 foot of hose. Standard is just 50 foot of hose. So the quote is a $2,000 reduction in the list price, plus they're throwing in the reel and 100 foot of hose on each unit.
So you guys had a chance to look at that. I know it's out of sequence, but you're not gonna sit there. So you had a
Yeah,
chance to look at it.
If it's appropriate, I'll make a motion that Road and Bridge purchases the two Hotsies.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Motion second to approve the two Hotsie purchase.
Super.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, John, I did not see that. I just-
Fine.
And then do you guys have anything for us? The McMullen building was well taken care of. Wasn't a lot of activity in there. Alcon's still got stuff in there. They're working feverishly. The ice rink is still up and going as far as I know. I don't know what you guys want to do about the lights. There's some nights I drive by, the lights are on, some nights they're off. So I just kind of leaving that alone.
Who's running the ice right now? Is it, do you know, is it still Gary? Does Gary kind of have the?
Yeah, I think Gary still has a hand in it.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a hold of him and find out what
What's
to
good
do.
is that? Johnson.
He had that before he got elected. He kind of oversaw the skating rink and stuff.
Well, he's running for mayor. He better take care of the light.
Is he?
Yeah,
Oh, I haven't heard that.
yeah.
All right. I'll get with him and visit him about the lights. Thank you.
Yeah, just, it doesn't matter to me, but we're paying the bill,
Right.
so.
Mhm.
Just if there was some consistency in what they were doing with it. And maybe they're leaving the lights on for security, around the facility.
But it's just the ones out around the skating rink itself,
It's
right?
in the
I mean, it's-
pavilion. Yeah, the outdoor lights in the pavilion. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
See you guys.
See you later.
See you.
Randall, you're up, sir.
Approach the bench.
That's up to you. Raise your right hand.
How are you guys this morning?
Good. You
Good.
Good.
We are going to record yours. It's going to say something.
Yeah. Okay. For the month of January, the building department. So we issued 13 building permits and 2 building permit extensions, including in the building permits, a couple of commercial projects. One was the water treatment building in South Fork. They're working on a new water system there. And the other one was an addition to Met's Potato. The department issued 1 on-site wastewater treatment system permit. It's kind of unusual for January. We don't usually get much of that, but it's for the refuge down south of Monte Vista. And they'd done all the site and soil evaluation last fall before it froze up. Just timed that they pulled the permit in January. Now, keep in mind, January is usually our really slow, dead month. And so we're going to see bigger numbers, as we move along. We did 1 new address assignment. I think that was out on County Road 28. I performed 32 inspections the month of January. I completed 9 plan reviews in January, which that's probably more than usual for January. Issued 5 certificates of occupancy. If you're not familiar with the building code, that's kind of an administrative thing. Once a residential building or a commercial building is complete, and as all the inspections have been completed and approved, if it's a building where people occupy, we issue a certificate of occupancy upon completion of that. I attended a Rio Grande Wellness Village workshop for the Rio Grande Hospital via Zoom on the 22nd. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with what they're working on out there at the Del Norte Hospital.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. This was like phase 2, like the second visioning workshop that they've held they're going to call it a wellness village. What they're after is some housing for temporary, traveling physicians and other healthcare people that are just here for a short time, and also with patients and families of patients where they may be out of town, but they're having to get, a round of treatments or something like that at the hospital, have some housing for them. And this last workshop was kind of more involved with the Commons building they'd like to put there. And basically, the idea I think with that is going to be just to have a building where, you could have meeting rooms, you could have exercise areas, you could have activities for the people that are staying there, as well as the entire community. So that's kind of why with these workshops, they brought in some of the players from the community to get ideas that might benefit the community as a whole, not just the hospital. So pretty cool deal. We completed our year-end reports, our Census Bureau reports on new housing, and we're actively sending out notices on to permit holders that where their building permits have expired. Many times the project's completed, but they never called for that final, so we can just close it out. Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes they need more time, and we can extend the permit for a fee. Then in any spare time that we have, we've been going through our storage vault and getting rid of stuff that's maybe outdated or unnecessary. We're trying to get that more organized. Example of that, we had, you guys know the Proximity Malt facility over there. Well, they built that about 4, 5, 6 years ago, something like that. And they were basically designing and building it at the same time. So, I mean, I was getting drawings like FedEx 2-3 times a week. And so that, they design something and then they'd be already working on building it. They'd submit the drawings for approval. And then, that drawing gets updated a couple weeks later. And long story short, we ended up with hundreds and hundreds of pages of drawings. Some of them, the same one had been updated 8-10 times. So we went through all of that and got one good, complete, updated set. And I mean, we had stacks, I think like 6 big rolls. I'm talking 30 by 42. And so Leslie had the idea about the schools. I was just going to dumpsterize them, And so Elaine in my office, she knows a lot of the teachers up in Del Norte. So the Head Start ended up getting a couple rolls of them, and then the elementary school got the rest. Yeah, kids can draw on them or use them for whatever. I guess, better than throwing them in the trash. So that was a great idea. It worked out. So, we were talking about community outreach, I think, at our workshop. There we go.
Yep.
So anyway, that's
Plus you'll be grooming some new building inspectors.
right on.
Or cat operators.
Yeah, right.
Got any questions for me, guys?
No, I don't. That's pretty thorough.
Yes, good report. It's good news too.
Yeah.
All the way across.
Yeah, just sidebar on the building permits. I've already got 3 new house plans in since I did my report.
Well,
Yeah. So it's going to be a busy one. Yesterday, I think I talked to 4 or 5 yesterday afternoon that are looking to build this year.
I know there's then some lots like up there on County Road 28 sold 10-acre parcel or something like that. So we're been sitting there for years.
I think the one I did the address on up there, I think they're looking to do a manufactured in there this year. So they're getting their address, getting their driveway access approved and working on that. When I was doing the finals on the 4 CRHDC houses, the super there said, we're going to do 6 more in Monte Vista this coming year. One of them, in all fairness, they started last year. They got the foundation in, and I guess the deal fell through. But that one will get built, and I think 5 more at least.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thanks, Randy.
We'll see you this afternoon.
Yep. Ms. Dixie, you're up.
Come to the front, I'm not coming to the table.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe you all have a copy of the Land Use Department's January monthly report. As Randy said, January is usually a pretty slow month, but this year has shown a lot of activity. In January, we actually did 2 camping permits. Both of those camping permits are long-term, 180 days, which is the maximum we allow. So that indicates that both of these people are actually living in their campers out on the property. Cold, by the way, they say. Cold out there. We did 2, working on 2 exempt divisional lands. Both of them, one in the southern Monte Vista area and one just north of 160 in the Monte Vista area. Pretty standard, dividing up corners of the field. So they're both working through water issues with the Division of Water Resources right now. But I don't foresee any big problems with them. We had one lot consolidation that's in conjunction with one of the divisional lands, so we're working on that one as well. One new home occupation application down in the southern Monte Vista area, and a new short-term rental application that was done in January. That one's actually more in towards Center, which was an unusual place for a short-term rental. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one works out for them. In line with that, I did the site inspection on that short-term rental as well already. We sent out six letters for renewals for various different things, most of them short-term rentals, for home occupation permits that'll have to be renewed. I've got a little bit of response back on those yet, but you'll probably see most of that in your February report. Let me jump over to Code Enforcement Department. Fortunately, with the snow on the ground, that's a pretty quiet area right now. Not any new complaints in January. So we just have the 3 pending complaints that I'm still working with. I'm trying to get them into compliance. I believe one of those 3 is actually in compliance now. And then the 2 that we've referred over to legal services. 6 site visits on those complaints. A lot of times the site visits, I go out first to verify a complaint, and then there's many more trips afterwards to note the progress until we get compliance of them. That's why there's so many site visits on those. Conditional use site visit, I drive by the one conditional use that we tend to have repeat issues with, so I try and drive by there once or twice a month just to make sure they stay in compliance with their thing. Like Randy said, the phones have been really busy. Talked to a couple different people about possible subdivisions they want to do coming up in the next few months. So we'll see if.
Are they significant subdivisions?
Right now, they're being pretty tight-lipped about what they want to do and haven't given me any
Are they large acreages?
size. We're talking fairly large acreages, yes. I haven't seen any plans. I've talked,
100,000 acres?
oh, probably 160 acres. I think it's probably about the biggest one I've seen. And I don't know whether they're looking at multiple small lots in there, or whether we're going to do 5-10 acre lots. I said they haven't come forward with any of their drawings or specifics yet. They're just in the preliminaries. They do have it turned into a designer, the designers who I've spoke with. See what happens there.
Over here, you had PUD listed under your method. Was there any PUD activity?
No new PUDs applications. Anything else?
And Dixie and I were supposed to meet yesterday, and I had 7 clients in crisis. I just couldn't get there. So She would have had a little more information for you on the two that have been referred over. You have your calendar handy?
No, I don't, but I can put notes down.
Okay, let's look at next Friday on the 19th, okay?
Friday the 19th?
Yep.
Can we do morning?
Yep.
Okay.
9, 10,
9 o'clock, Friday the 19th?
thank you.
Okay.
And she'll have more information from my end.
All right,
Sorry about that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dixie.
Okay. Informal reports and follow-up. Do we have anything there? Anybody? Nope. Okay, we'll go on to general business. We're gonna do the consideration for the adoption of resolution 2021-07.
Is that Judy Jolly up there?
Mhm. We're gonna do a conversation period.
I guess can or
With her.
just, I had the same questions about, was the seat actually vacated? And are we filling an unexpired term, or is this the beginning of a new term? For the Rio Grande Basin Roundtable? And what exactly is the position we're filling? Is there a title for it, or is it just a general member?
I don't know if you're asking me or Judy, but I guess from what I know, it's just a general, your county appointment. And then as far as I know, Brenda said it was vacated, so I don't know if Judy probably has more on that.
Judy, do you have anything else to follow up on that? Well, that's
That's
you.
that, Judy?
That's
Oh.
me in my office up
Not muted.
there.
Answer, Judy, answer.
I don't have anything additional.
Nikita, is this I'm not sure, you may have answered this. Is this an expired term, or is this a vacated term?
So the roundtable actually discussed this yesterday. They really haven't been using their term limits because I think originally when they got started, there was so few people kind of active that they just kind of let everyone roll over terms. But they're going to start enforcing their term limits, I guess, or not limits, but terms. And so I don't think anyone really knows if this was a term limit. I know Brenda got appointed about 3 years ago from the Rio Grande County. And so I guess you could fill that 2 years or you could fill a 5-year term. The roundtable is kind of just going to move forward with those 5-year terms. So that's what they talked about on their meeting yesterday anyway.
I don't want to be making any trouble here, but without the roundtable specifying certain seats and certain terms, you're going to end up with this problem reoccurring, or they'll have everybody termed out in the same time.
Yeah, and they're addressing that. They're kind of going back and looking at they're going to stagger them out. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do that. They said the executive board's going to kind of figure out a game plan and then present it to the general board. So
would we be, I visited with Travis Smith just a little bit on a couple of things, but would we be better off to go ahead and assign this as a 2-year and wait for them to do their adjustments and then in 2 years have to redo it? I mean, what's the opinion of the roundtable in your conversations with?
With my conversations, I think it would be up to you guys. I think the roundtable is going to take your resolution and run with it. So if you say 5 years, they're going to run with that. If you say 2 years. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the general opinion that I got from conversations, so. And I know that Brenda had vacated that, she had stepped down for several reasons, I guess, so. I guess our option is just to,
Fill the unexpired term,
We-
the imaginary term. It's really,
well,
My
I-
last conversation with the roundtable folks were that we were headed to a point for a 5-year term because of what's unknown on their end.
it would be helpful if the roundtable would have, sort of had either this, is that they could have said, this is where we are, this is what we're trying to do. You talked to Travis, but we haven't seen anything formally.
yeah,
And down the road, and I don't have a problem either way personally, but it seems to me a little unstructured at this time.
well, I think there's quite a bit of stuff that the roundtable is going to try to get figured out. I don't know if this is one of those deals where, because of the situation Brenda gated under, just brought this to the forefront right now where we just need to put another person in there. I think by doing it 5 years and then let the roundtable figure out how they're going to do their staggering on their end of it, would probably be better off for us and whoever we assign this to.
As I recall, I think I was either here or I was in the audience. Brenda was, I believe, reappointed.
You were here in the audience.
Right. Been 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we appoint Nikita Christensen, representative of Rio Grande County, Rio Grande Basin Roundtable, or as to be determined by the roundtable as they restructure.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion second to approve Nikita Christian for under the 2021-07 resolution. Favor?
Aye.
Well, thank
And you have
you.
to stay on for the rest of the meeting.
What's that?
Stay around for the rest of the meeting.
For the rest of the day?
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Well.
On that, yeah. Okay.
That do it?
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a request to approve funding for a part-time administrative position.
Have we really discussed this, or we just get a proposal?
So Judy and Deborah are here to answer any questions.
The reason it's before you is it's a budget issue, not a personnel issue.
But it's a position.
It is a
We're
position.
discussing a position.
And Leslie's given you a good amount of background there in her memo to you.
So I read that, but we have another proposal before us on changing a title on a position, right?
And that's a separate thing.
That's an
for your
executive session.
Right, I understand, but what are we trying to accomplish here? I didn't know about that one until recently, the second one. So we're talking about 2 separate positions, adding another desk, basically.
No, it wouldn't be a desk. This would be a very part-time person as needed to do filing. And so initially, we expect that we would be having that person in the office quite a bit because Judy's in the process of organizing our records. We're going to be doing a lot of purging and a lot of reorganization. We haven't even started on paper files, I think. So, and then from that time, when that's done, that person might not come in for a week. They might work 5 hours in a week. If there's a crunch, they might work 10 hours. It's just to get that filing thing off the plate of Bobby and Deborah, because I think after Deborah did payroll, she realized that probably we need to leave payroll in-house but the filing was was really kind of loading her and Bobby.
Now, we've had a filing purging issue problem before. And we, to my knowledge, we still don't know what the damage was in that one.
Well,
Well, the part of this, the issue around the records as a whole is you as a county don't have a good foundation for how you manage your records. And every person sort of takes it upon themselves to do what they think is right. So electronically, we've got directories from every person who's come and gone that's not been organized. So that's part of what I'm taking a stab at. I am doing the big, broad structural piece. To chip away at the detail is something you don't want to pay me for. It's much cheaper to hire this employee that we're recommending than to have me follow through with doing that level of it. The other piece of it is workload for the admin team as a whole. And we've really spent a lot of time trying to analyze what is the bottleneck, what can we do to improve efficiencies, and where do we need some help. And I think we've come to the conclusion that, contracting out payroll isn't the best efficiency that we could do. And it's probably a good chunk more money than hiring this part-time person. So I think this is the best bang for your buck, as it were, in getting not only caught up, but the maintenance in place to move forward.
and you would be adopting records retention schedules.
Yes, so that this is probably a
So
good
your
time
problem
to.
is you had someone making independent decisions. You need a records retention schedule, and then those records are managed that way.
And
So anything that's permanent stays, like land use and building, a lot of their stuff doesn't get thrown out ever. But in other departments, old
There's a lot
whatevers.
of, multiple copies of drafts that need to sort out which was the last draft, which was the adopted copy, those sort of detail works. And the hard copy itself, I don't think is going to be as big of a time commitment as getting the overall foundation. And then we collectively need to train users on this is how you manage your records moving forward. And I am just talking the admin team, not countywide.
Yep. As a citizen, I've faced challenges in the past of trying to get county records that were not just a matter of historic curiosity, but actually were relevant at the time, specifically maps. And if they exist, they don't exist in some organized format. And so it became an issue on vacating roads and things of that nature, fairly major stuff. And I experienced some frustration because I couldn't go to one place and at least get pointed. So I know we've got maps back here in the vault by you. Road and Bridge has maps. The county clerk has maps. And nobody can tell you when County Road 28 was deeded to the county. And it's that type of thing that there's a lot of that out there. I'm assuming that was the area of my interest. I'm assuming that there are other areas of historical significance that's still relevant to today, not just curiosity. And so I'm uncomfortable having somebody come in without a sense of what it is with a clear sense of what it is we're trying to preserve, and have them making decisions about, I don't think this is.
They're not making the decisions.
So-
They're
Okay, so
following
then my
directive.
next question is, who does?
So Judy is developing these records retention schedules, and they will include things like maps don't get thrown out unless we have 120 copies of them. And I assure you that I've run across proposals for projects we never built that we have multiple copies of. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that goes. There's no reason to keep that stuff. So you will look at those records retention schedules when Judy's done proposing drafts to you. The state dictates a lot of those retention schedules. We just didn't adopt them. And then you'll have a chance to go through them and adopt them. And then we will manage records based on that. What the problem before is that you had people, exactly as you said, individually going through and deciding which records go out. That's not how you manage records.
And I have concerns, and it's borderline speculative. But for instance, we have 2 file cabinets of Summitville files over in the clerk's office, which have kind of been in the custody of different entities, and they've migrated around and sitting over there. And the question is, why do we want to keep them? And since I've done some of the work on Summitville, my sense is I don't want to throw away a single scrap of paper until we know where we're going, because we're right at the front edge of figuring out the Summitville solution.
And we agree. And as somebody who's a former planning director, I will stand by you and protect those records.
All right.
And that's
Anything
my,
that
and that's my
has to do
stance
with,
also.
anything that has to do with land, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, I mean, literally when Judy was going through the digital records, we had photographs of people's calendars from a long time ago that you don't need to know what somebody did 10 years ago on May 16th. That stuff is going.
And to train users how to manage those things. If you do a photo of your calendar because it's helpful for you for the next week, get rid of it after the next week. And we need to train users in how to do that and how to appropriately place the electronic files within either their confidential drive, if it's confidential, within a shared drive, if it needs shared. And nobody has been directed in any way on how to do that.
The other thing is, as we were talking about, and I understand this is a part-time command specifically is needed to take care of some of these specific things. But then one of the things we were promised, nobody in this room except Gene and myself will remember this. When we went to Tyler, we were promised that this was going to free up so much time in the administrative office. Okay. Now, if that promise was made in error or if it was broken, I would like to see us deal with that, because we were assured repeatedly what this would do. And I don't know why it hasn't come to fruition. I mean, we've heard everything from COVID to the transition to trying to reconstruct the damage from poor accounting practices prior and get us up to speed there. But without, okay, once we're up to speed, we get all those errors cleared out, and we kind of get used to the COVID cycle and what have you, and the training that Tyler was offering us, or was providing us allegedly, we should be hitting a convergence point now, and it sounds like we're not.
So I'm gonna talk about that under my county administrator's report. So I'd like to keep that separate from here, because that's a whole entire different discussion.
Well, it sounds like to me that you guys are just trying to bring the mess that we're in into an organized files and move forward in a legal and every other aspect for the county with this person. And this person would just be somebody that you guys told what to do and just kept them going. It sounds positive to me, because you got to start somewhere.
And I'll just give you an example, John, that I think you can relate to. I just about came unglued when I heard that we don't know where some of our resolutions are. We need to know where every single one of our resolutions are. And we're working on that. So it's that kind of stuff. Things have just been scattered around and there's no logbook. I mean, Cindy can tell you the same thing. And that's what we're trying to do is that if I leave and Judy leaves and Deborah leaves and Aubrey leaves, the next person comes in can find out where the records are without us being there. It should be obvious where they are.
I personally have, I concur with what you're trying to accomplish here. I truly do. My concern is not that we hire a part-timer to come in and just help sort through the mess and get things organized under your close supervision. But the other is, we had at one time talked about a position out here that's already here. We went from 2 people in this office to back when, well, this is before you took office, I believe. We were at 2. And all of a sudden this office started growing and the problems got worse. And as from the sounds of things, we lost that continuity of memory or institutional memory. a lot of that, and I understand a lot of that's what we're trying to correct right now. So we find the resolutions and all that. If we lose this staff right here, who do we go to? But again, I'm gonna go back to the Tyler thing, which I know you're going to address, but we're being asked to hire somebody right now under this part of the agenda. And my concern is, are we going to be able to more efficiently use staff time if, in fact, Tyler delivers on its promise?
Yes.
And in which case, I'm sorry, but that's.
No, that's okay. I would love to take you into the vault where the employee files are.
Mhm.
Because while it was just Bobby and Debbie, and
Mhm.
Bobby was doing all the HR payroll stuff,
Mhm.
files for people that left were just stacked.
Mhm.
I'm still working on some of the files for new hires when I started. Just getting all those files filed would make me feel so much better. And I was thinking about it this morning, the I-9s, that's so critical. Hopefully ICE isn't gonna walk in, but that's a huge part of HR right now.
Mhm.
And we need to go through the old I-9s and get those out of our current I-9s and get our current I-9s all in order.
Sure.
That's a huge part of HR. And
grunt
I
work.
just don't have time to do it.
Okay, well,
And
that's
when you
what
say-
we need to
when
hear,
you
huh?
say
Well-
that
Grunt work.
there was
Right.
fewer staff
Grunt
years
work.
ago,
Right.
those are the kind of things that weren't getting done.
Well, that's the part that I want to address, because just before I came in, the people that sat in those offices before had willy-nilly thrown stuff away, just gone. And that's the part that John's talking about. We don't want that to happen, as well as getting into our Tyler thing that we were promised would happen. So I think it's a great idea to go that way. I really do. So
I'll make a motion that we proceed with this, hiring a part-time administrative support clerk.
Do we have any idea what it's gonna cost us?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right
it's
down
in
here
the-
on the
it's in
bottom.
the
Yeah, it's-
fiscal
Is it
impact on
over
it.
here?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's spelled out at the bottom of this
Oh,
page.
okay, I'm still on the
I'm
agenda, not the
thinking-
memo.
You know, it could be probably around 4,000 this
4,000.
year.
Okay,
Without the records management stuff that Judy's doing, that's gonna be extra, but we're gonna be saving money there.
Yeah.
You
So-
don't want to pay me to put I-9s in order. You could,
I don't.
you could,
I don't.
you don't.
I
And
don't.
you tell you me, you'd come in
It's
on
not cost
Saturdays and do it.
effective.
No,
I'm not arguing with you.
so we have a motion for that. I'll second the motion.
Motion is second to hire a part-time administrative support clerk. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
If I can make one more comment, just as a comment. When I came in 2 years ago, in the HR department, there were stacks of personnel records on the tables and bookshelves in there, going back, some of them 2 to 3 years, that had not been filed.
It
And
looks like that
so,
now, but it's all in the vault. So it's
oh,
under
it
lock
still
and
looks
key.
like that, you just moved it?
It does.
Okay.
So that's
Move the
why,
files.
that's
So
why
I realized that there's a challenge in dealing with all of that. I didn't know if it was because the person just wasn't doing it or couldn't.
you know, the reality is a lot of those type of activities get pushed aside because they're not time critical. You can do them later, and you've got really time critical things that need done.
Mhm.
And over time, that just creates that backlog, and you don't solve that overnight. And maintaining it and staying ahead of it is the key, and that's what we have. to
Well,
make
and
decisions.
we know, all of us in this room know that with the change personnel and everything that's happened in the last couple of years, going through everything we've gone through, that there's been some of that. We'll put that off till later, and that is one of the things. Obviously, everybody understands that, but you're destined. All right. I have to apologize because I jumped ahead when Patrick was here to the hot seat thing. When he started talking, I just let him go ahead and talk about it. So we're done with C. So we're gonna go right to
That's
the
fine.
airport.
Saves Patrick's time. too.
Well, I guess that's what I was thinking, because I didn't look until John pointed out that I messed that one up. Sorry.
You didn't mess it up.
Moved it ahead for.
Right.
Convenience.
I just, I didn't think you messed it
There
up.
you go.
I I didn't read good. Okay, so we're on to Nancy, are you doing this one?
Yes,
Okay.
so the lease that Ron Bauer is receiving as an assignment is significantly different than the new lease that we
I
created.
thought this was a new lease.
This is the, okay, yes, no,
This is property that is not built on yet.
oh, okay. He'll be signing a new lease.
Yes. And he
Right.
has,
We
but
we had
yes.
another issue crop up that Bill Dunn was gonna stop in and say hello
Okay.
with, but
So have we seen this lease?
It's in your packet.
Okay.
and this one's good to go.
And
The
all the-
new
Yeah,
new one is
new.
good to
All
go.
New, it's on
all
the
of the
new
blanks are
form.
filled in,
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
I'm very suspicious.
Yeah, no, right. The new one is good to go. I thought we were addressing that other
Okay, yeah.
assigned one.
Okay, so this has been reviewed by legal and
Yes.
admin and everybody
Yes.
feels it's.
Everybody's
appropriate.
happy.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the airport track lease, track 29 and half of 30 to Ron Boyer as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
But while we're at it, we'll discuss that other last little piece.
Okay.
There's an assignment that we approved at the last board meeting. We asked the new assignee to sign the new lease. He took it to Bill Dunn for review. There's some significant term changes, and it's already a prepaid 25-year lease. And so he was uncomfortable with that. Bill Dunn and I worked out an addendum to his original lease that simply agrees to the 30-day notice should he decide to assign an assigned lease. So he doesn't have to sign a new lease for it, but he's agreeing to our current terms. So that's a done deal, and we should see the paperwork. I thought Bill was going to be here this
Is that a
morning.
play on words, a
Yeah,
done deal?
done deal.
It's a double done deal, yes. So it is a done deal, and I had expected him to be here this morning with his copy of a signed addendum for you to sign. But when you see it, you'll know that it's been approved legally.
Good deal. All right, we'll go on to commissioners and administrator updates.
Do you have the vote on that lease? No?
We did.
We did.
They did.
Oh,
So
Yep.
fast.
Anybody got any reports, updates, anything you'd like to?
Railroad, I'll be talking to them hopefully this week because of significance to us is I think the revenue for the estate is dropping off fairly significantly because all those storage cars pulled out of town. That's about 50% of their revenue. So I'm gonna find out if they got more schedule coming in if I can. The trustee, or not the trustee, yeah, the trustee for the estate. Is not compelled to talk to us, but we're flying kind of blind right now. I don't know, have you heard more?
No.
Okay,
I have not.
and we've been asked by the creditors representing the group that is put the railroad in bank. There's a couple of bankruptcies out there. So the one that we're concerned with have asked us to join in a petition to the courts to establish a creditors committee. Is that
That's,
accurate?
it's a motion to the court
right?
to
Motion.
establish a creditors committee, which I have read and have thoroughly reviewed, and I think it's a great idea.
So, but that's gonna take, and I basically, instead of putting myself between the attorneys and passing messages back and forth, I'm just trying to get the attorneys to talk to each other. That meaning our attorney specifically, perhaps the other county attorneys if they're involved, and the creditors' attorneys, the other creditors. So, the peril I see is we go through all the process, spend a whole lot of money on trustees and running the railroad and run out of money. And then while we're a priority creditor, if there's no money in the bucket, I don't know what happens to us. And so that's been my concern in terms of having an eye on what's going on and trying to have some input into the process. Because they owe us close over $500,000, this county.
That's just us.
That's just us,
Doesn't
yeah.
count the rest of the counties that owe money to in the valley.
Right,
And
but
work.
right now they're in restructuring. They're not in total liquidation proceedings yet, so we can still be hopeful.
Hope. Yeah. But it's gotten awfully quiet simply because once the trustee took over, the flow of information kind of got throttled down. And he didn't have a reason or an obligation to keep us in the loop, because it wasn't necessarily even in the trustee's best interest. But we don't have good eyes on the ground right now.
That's why you want to join this motion for a creditors committee. Now, it's not a guarantee. The
Well,
bankruptcy
nothing is
judge
on this.
doesn't have to do it. It's an unusual request. It's outside the normal construct of the proceedings, but it's, all they can do is say no. Can't hurt to try. And I do have calls into the other counties, the other county attorneys to discuss it, so. Waiting for calls back, and we're harassing them daily.
I have one other thing. They're still, I'm assuming, Scott, that you're not getting anything from the San Luis Valley Housing Coalition.
Me getting something from
Yeah.
them? No, sir.
Because you're on that committee now, but I'm still getting all the vote for this, vote for that stuff. So I don't know if we let all
Yeah.
these different groups know
No, I
who's
haven't.
representing us.
I have
I've been
not.
voting in your stead.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, but I'm gonna start using your name.
I think, I don't have contacts for all those agencies, and I doubt if Leslie does either, off just knowing what's available in her office. So
If
I'm
you've
not
got
sure
a
the best way
contact
to do
number that you could share with me,
Yeah, or
John, I'll
email, I
just,
can. They can, you know, I mean, we've had contact as a group with them. They came and spoke to us and all of that, so administratively, we should have that information associated with
yeah,
each of these committees that we serve on.
yeah.
And then it should be an automatic whenever we do any
And
changes.
and all these are long-term committees. None of these are brand new to us this year. So it should be.
So a good way to do it, which is what I've been doing with Suzanne Bothel's emails, is to hit reply all and put the new person who's representing and saying, please take Suzanne Bothell off. She's no longer commissioner, and so will be your rep. So if you get one of those, you can just hit reply all and copy Scott and say, Scott Deacon, Commissioner Scott Deacon is your new rep.
Well, I did, rather than having 3 individuals sending out that information, I thought if it came from the administrative office, at least we'd have that continuity. Because I could have said, I did tell them that.
Yes, yeah.
But they didn't pick up on it. And I thought, well, it probably ought to come out officially from the county.
I mean, I can send it if I
Okay.
can get that information.
I have one little item. I was wondering, they were asking if the county commissioners would sponsor a crane for the crane festival. They put out those little metal cranes, and I think it's $150.
Right.
And they were wondering if the commissioners would sponsor or the county would sponsor a crane for the crane festival. And that's what they put along Monty on the posts. And then when they get done, then they turn around and they draw money from it for the chamber, but I think they sell them to bring back funding.
Well, the crane setup to where they pay for the cranes up front. They give them to specific artists, and the artists paint them,
Yeah.
create them, and then when they sell them, as they sell them or whatever, the artist gets paid for their costs. A lot of them donate it. don't mess with whatever. So when they sell the cranes on the street at the end of the deal, they make back money on that. And if you own it, you have the
We can
right,
have
if
the
you buy it, you
crane?
can have the crane back or buy back on it.
Got
So-
room
Yeah.
in there for the crane?
We need a desk.
It's a metal crane.
Yeah, and they're, well, you've
Just
seen
put
it.
it
you
back
know,
there,
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
on the chairs.
Let's start describing my no damn good ways.
Uh,
I have no problem with that. If,
When do they have to know? So we can make that official.
That I don't know. You'd probably know more
We-
about
we
it
have-
than I would.
we probably have time. We could put it on next agenda.
I mean, if we have to do a formal motion.
Yeah,
on it,
because the Crane Festival is until what, March?
If-
the first
if
part of
earliest,
March.
yeah.
and if They got that, it's been very quiet.
They're-
They got the
they're
logistics
working on
worked
it.
out.
Yeah,
They originally
got-
canceled it.
they cut 60 of them and they've already, I think they've only got 20 left.
Okay,
Or no, to sell.
To
They're all
sell.
cut.
okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the actual crane festival itself, since the building's gone.
Yeah, it's they're gonna do what, kind of like they did with the ag, they'll do it in the
Yeah.
McMullen building on a smaller basis and some virtual stuff, but they want them, if they can get it all put together, they were still working on it. So-
Well, and they were gonna come and see about the or for the McMullen building for that purpose to put the vendors and that stuff in like the ag and
Sure.
deal did.
Now, we've been historically,
They're hanging on the wall now out in the other office.
whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, but historically, we've supported them
Oh,
in one
okay.
form or another.
Okay.
And I guess this is a way of supporting them, is through the
Yeah.
crane purchases.
So can we get that on the agenda for the next one then, if we make that a formal deal?
We'll write it on our whiteboard.
Yes, we will.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, we got a whiteboard, and we've got a whatever we call that, flip chart. It's been so long since I've seen one of those. I saw one the other day. Okay.
Okay, I have just a couple things. Number one thing is our goal setting meeting last week that you put on at the annex was phenomenal. I have had more comments about that from our employees than you can imagine. I've been through a lot of those over the years. I'm sure all of us have. That was one of the best ones I've ever attended. That's not blowing smoke. That's a statement of fact. So we had our TPR meeting on Thursday. It looks like the funding that we were afraid was going to get cut from the budget because of the governor's plans with COVID and everything, they've left the money in there. So we're going to be all right for right now. So the projects that were scheduled are going to go forward.
Is that the, like Mustang and stuff like that, is that part of the?
And this
PPR?
is the CDOT side of it. It's the ones that do the, like for all the guardrails, stuff they do across all the passes now and the road improvements like
Oh,
Highway
okay,
17.
Is this
so
the
this is actual
5-year
construction stuff then?
Mhm.
5-year plan, their 5-year CIP plan?
Yes.
Okay.
And so the funding is gonna be there to continue and finish the projects they got on the valley floor, like 17 going north and the interchange in the spring out there on 17 and 160. We got a project on 285 they're looking at, one going 114. So there was a lot of valley projects that got approved in this because of having enough people there from the valley representing. It wasn't just Region 5 has gotten a lot of money this last go around. We used to be the stepchild, and they proved on paper the other day that we actually got as much money as anybody per capita in the state this go around. So
But Region 5 goes clear across the state, right?
yeah, it includes the
Durango.
and Cortez, and it goes.
So how much did the valley get?
It was a bunch. I was really amazed at how much. I can't remember the numbers. Should have brought that paper with me, but the Highway 17 is a complete project, and that was
Oh, that's
several
right,
millions of dollars. And that exchange interchange there at 17 and 160
Right.
was a big buck thing. It's so we got.
Well, I'll narrow it down. How much do River County?
Oh,
Good point, Sean.
well, we're gonna get the funding off of whatever it is out of 285 project as it starts north. Unfortunately, it won't be much of a stretch for us there. They are gonna do that on that north end.
Are they?
Yeah.
Out through Sawash.
And we have we're a shared TPR. Chaffey County on that upper end, they're actually not in Region 5. They actually qualify on the other side, but because of the locale they share, we share one of the commissioners, Keith Baker sits on that with us. And so
Could that stretch up
kind of share
the
that.
corner up there?
Yeah. And we get over as far as like sergeants over on the other side of Monarch Pass going to
Yeah.
guns if we get in that area on that part too. We just did a wildlife tunnel and a culvert system over there. But I went to the grand opening, not the grand opening, the groundbreaking for the Forest Service building. They are really tearing that school apart inside. I mean, it's down to some studs. I
Really?
walked through there. They did a nice little deal. It'll be, Lindsay was there and covered it, so there'll be some stuff in the paper this week on it.
I have one other thing on the water Zoom meeting that I came in that you guys set up. I want to thank the county for paying the $30 for it. And boy, did I get an awakening on what's going on with water. It is so, and it all looked pretty good until they got to District 1. And then it is scary. And, but I just wanted to thank the county for allowing me to attend or to watch that, because I didn't have a clue what our water issues are.
It's, yeah, and that is the first domino. Just my
Oh,
point.
man.
Because when you get further south, lower value crops, but they're gonna be paying for the water. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause it primarily hay and small grains down, so they're not, they don't have the potatoes to you down in Manassas.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue, but wow.
Yeah, it's scary.
The only other thing I had was I met with the SRTS for Center for the Safe Routes to School over there. The bridge is almost completed across the canal, and they'll start the concrete as soon as the ground's freed up to where they make the sidewalk down the other side. So that project's getting closer and closer. And then CDOT will come in. A year or so ago, I visited with CDOT about putting lighting in the road, the blink when you come down just the surface. And they're agreeing that even though it's a new asphalt, they'll install, I guess. And so got a couple of terms to work out, but we got to get everything to that point before we can put that in. So.
Speaking
That's
of
it.
that area, whatever happened to Idaho Pacific?
They cleaned it up as far as I know. I have not had one complaint since that final resolve. So, and
Last I remember, CDPHE was just kind of.
yeah, they were,
Floating around.
and then all of a sudden, Mike Oliver called me one time and asked me about that again. I called up there and talked to Deister, and he told me, he said, I will handle this. And within just a little bit, I had Linnea call me and said, I'm out here and this is going to be done now. So,
Okay. It was one of those that just kind of fell on everybody's radar.
yeah. Well, I didn't hear anything for a long time. So I drove out by there and it still had that smell, but it wasn't as bad. I was worried more about the flooding part of it. They got,
Right,
they
what's
got
coming
that
out on
diversion
private property and
problem,
stuff,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep. All right.
So I have some updates. And eventually I will have a written report in your packet, but I just haven't focused on that yet. We had our initial kickoff of our indirect cost allocation study, and as far as I know, the staff got their information to the consultant, and they think they can finish it in 2 months. So that would be great. But Jody and Dr. Bancoli and I and Debbie met with them. And then I've been working with Jean on the Homeland Security Grant Program applications. I mean, most of them looked good. I left a notebook of those for you, John, out on the mail table for you to go through. I guess we're going to make the final recommendation on those probably at the next meeting. There's one that I'm a little concerned about. It's an HOA is applying for funds, and I don't know that the federal government will grant funds to an HOA. So Jean was unclear about that because, you know, they do cover their group's fire needs, but at the same time, it's not a legal entity that can accept federal funds probably. So I did suggest to her, first of all, we need to clarify with FEMA that that's possible. And two, they may want to form a district or something that they can accept federal funds if they're doing those duties. It's not customary for an HOA to be doing those duties. So that it's up in Baca, I guess. That'll be some discussion.
They will be excluded from federal funding because it's a private, essentially, it comes down to being essentially a private entity, even if they are state exempt. They're not federally exempt. And if they're maintaining their own roads, doing their own fire, doing everything that a governmental entity would do, they would be required to form a district
And this is 100% federal
for
funding.
federal
so
funding.
They're not gonna, I think they're not gonna get funded, but I don't know, what role that group wants to play in getting them to the point where they have the proper authority to accept federal funds, since they're doing those duties. So that's the only thing I saw. I have a meeting with Jean this week, and I think Nancy's going to try and come to talk about subrecipient contracts and subrecipient responsibilities, because that's where I think our high risk designation came in. We're still designated high risk, and we need to get off of that. So that's probably going to be a rude awakening for the subrecipients who have not had their feet to the fire. They're going to have to sign a contract, and they're going to have to manage their grants by federal standards, and they're going to have to be monitored every month. So just be aware that you may get some, like, what do you mean? We didn't have to do this before. Yeah, you did. And that's why Rio Grande County has a high risk status. So we're going to meet this Friday to see, the steps we need to take to get that in order. I've downloaded the templates for all that work and the checklists that they need to have.
That's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, my trial just got vacated, so we're good to go.
Oh, in the afternoon.
Is
Yeah.
that the 1 o'clock or 1:31? Is that,
It's at 2:30 if you want to come.
is that with Burrito?
Jean
Yes,
and Nancy and I.
okay, yeah, I'd like to be familiar with it. I'm gonna be
Sure,
on that committee.
sure. So, and then Tyler, we are working on it. So we had a meeting scheduled with Tyler Friday morning. They canceled with me at the last minute. They wanted to see exactly what our problems are. So we met anyway, and we kind of put together a list. Jean's been very involved of all the problems we've had, and Deborah and Bobby and Debbie are putting together a list of all the communications they have and how long it's taken to get an answer, how many times they had to call. I've got most everything, and they're also scanning their emails, and I'm just going to send that to them and say, here's the list. We had a discussion on, I think what we're aiming for is we want excellent customer service as we were promised. I don't know what's going on there. And 2, some compensation for what we've gone through. And what we talked about was asking them to extend our training and service contract for a year for free. So that's
And we figured that was equivalent to
it's $23,000.
$23,000.
Is
If
what
we
we
can
pay.
do that.
We pay $23,000 for terrible customer service. And they're acting, what's really funny is that they're sort of acting like, what do you mean we didn't do something? But Debbie has noticed since I sent my very polite nasty gram, I basically said, it could be us, but that their customer service has improved.
I've participated, and I know Jean did. Is it Kat? Was that the person you were dealing with, or whatever? Kate.
Mhm.
And I was underwhelmed at that point, not with her performance per se, but her position. And why were we talking to her when we had technical issues? And she was just kind of passing the message on to the different technicians or whomever the experts were that we would really need to talk to. So it was just adding this extra layer or filter, or whatever you want to call it, in that communication chain.
Well, actually, you need that, and I'll tell you why. That's how Cassell operates. Because if you're not, you call so-and-so, and then you call so-and-so, and they say, oh, call so-and-so. You don't want that. You want a gatekeeper. The problem is that when she contacts people, they're not calling us back. And somebody there has to follow up on this and make sure that it's not our responsibility to call 2 days later and say, hey, what happened? They have to call back. And Cassell operates the same way, but for some reason, they're not, as as you've probably experienced over the last couple of years, not communicating with each other in their departments. And that's what we have to insist. It stops. It has to stop where we have to talk about another option.
Well, the last two times that I was on phone conversations with Debbie and Bobby in there, they had, Kate was on there. And she was, like I said, gatekeeper. And she actually called somebody while we were on the line and had that person join, and that person actually could.
Answer the questions.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah,
That's-
and that worked pretty good.
I think it was the lag that built in, because they had these weekly meetings or whatever they were scheduled. And I thought they were burning daylight because they could, they're taking their hour or whatever it was for that call, two people in here. Plus her, just to have her make the contact in the company whenever she could have just picked up the phone and called the person directly and got that specific question answered then. And it just seemed like it was grossly inefficient. It was Pony Express.
So down the line, and I'm thinking 6 months, this is not something that by next week, we will be spending less time fiddling with Tyler. They made some mistakes. They didn't connect us with some functionality that they should have. I mean, it is a mess. We thought it was a mess. It's a mess. But it's going to take a while for us to get all that functionality, to get training, to get familiar with the system and the bugs worked out, which should have happened over the last 6 months, but it didn't. And get going. But at that point, yes, like Deborah said, she won't be spending those 3-hour calls trying to fix payroll or W-9s or something. So I don't want to get your hopes up that we make a phone call, make a demand, and everything gets fixed. It's going to be a process. We just should have been going through it over the last 6 months.
And this has cost us money.
Yep, it has cost you money.
Yeah,
why
and
we're
that's
asking
what,
for
yeah.
for
Sorry.
some
Beth.
compensation for that.
And I don't think that request is unreasonable.
I don't either.
I think they'll
It's directly related to the problem.
work with you.
So. And I'm very good at subtle threats if people don't. I mean, I'm ready to play hardball because this is crazy and they gotta get their act together. And I want to keep reiterating, I know other people that have used them have not gone through this. So I don't know what happened with our particular.
Something broke
thing.
down early on.
Yeah. And it didn't get fixed because the person who was involved in the original negotiation was gone, and we had all these people that weren't trying to get it to go. So I wanted to let you know that we are actively working on that just to reduce the stress level out there because it's been intense.
Okay.
And then yesterday I had a really good meeting with Caitlin, who is our CDOT aerospace or aeronautics representative. She came out to the airport. She revealed to us that we are her favorite airport in the state.
We hear that every year.
She loves us. So anyway, she gave a really good overview of all the opportunities that we have. I got a better understanding of how important us getting this jet fuel farm is.
Was that yesterday?
Yes,
Was this in lieu of the scheduled airport board meeting?
I have no idea.
This wasn't.
No, we still have an airport
16th.
workshop set.
No, this is their advisory board meeting
Oh.
that normally
There
would
was
have taken
no-
place yesterday.
Jay was there for a short time. It was just
Jay.
Earl, me and Caitlin.
It was who?
Or
Oh, you and
Earl,
Caitlin. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was like
So
a-
Tom
yeah.
Haefley and that crowd went there.
So she showed us, there's a lot of information available about our airport, very specific and detailed information about the status, safety status and that on the web that Earl was not aware of. She's going to tie both Earl and I into that database. So we'll have a connection to that. And then there's public data that's really interesting on it. They keep it up. And so that'll be helpful. She encouraged us to move forward with the fuel farm immediately. And we're going to be discussing this later, so we don't need to now. But this is what she said. Our current estimate for the fuel farm is $83,000. She said that is a smoking deal and you better jump in on it right away. Creed paid $333,000 for theirs.
If we can get it free, last time we got a bid like that, didn't include some of the
Well,
necessary
this,
components.
Earl has now contacted directly this company that Ches was working with and added all those in.
Okay.
So I think Ches's original estimate was lower. I think that probably need to plan on more than 100 because apparently around 100 because it's escalating. I also expressed concern about revenue, and she feels absolutely we will make that back in revenue and maybe get this airport sustainable just by doing that. And it's something that I think we need to move on like right now so it can be ready for summer. I mean, we went into a detailed conversation of the revenue potential there and including Earl's been modeling just on our own, I guess we have 5 in-house customers, what the revenue could be. She gave us some tips about how to arrange that contract, the fuel contract, so that you can get the price down. I mean, it was a really important meeting, I think, and she has a wealth of information to share. So I think I've said before, we have a fund balance in the airport, which I'm reluctant to go into because we've been drawing it down at about $75,000 a year, but it might be worth it to do it this year. And we do have $20,000 from the state to help offset that cost. The next thing is, she also made us aware, and this will be a discussion later for this afternoon, that the state has loans to purchase land and water rights. They're 10-year loans, 100% loan at 2% that are available to
And the
us.
county access those loans?
Yes, and she said they don't have a lot of money this year, but we talked a little bit. We talked a little bit about the pricing of some properties we're thinking about, and they definitely have enough money to cover that. So that is a tool if we, and we can't really talk about that here, but that's a tool that we have in our toolbox should we move ahead, which seems like a good idea, given the fact that the need that we've got.
Isn't there some restrictions on counties borrowing money? That's why we do the lease purchase on the jail and things of that nature.
Committing yourself for more than 1 year, maybe that, but
There's something in there and I don't remember what it is. I know we've had that discussion. I don't know if we've ever.
I know it's a debt issue. I mean, there are ways that you can set it up.
You can do a
You just need a
workaround.
really smart attorney, which I think we have. So
I'll have answers for you
Yeah.
ASAP.
I mean, I know
So
that
that's the
counties
smart
have
part
taken on
about that
debt,
attorney.
but it has to
Yeah.
be structured in a
That's
certain
right, that's right.
way. It's about obligating for more than a year.
Right.
Right.
So that sounded, it brought me a relief. We are gonna have to talk about, though, increasing the revenue at the airport to pay that off. And how we hold that, if we, do some property purchases, how we hold those and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's a tool that I didn't know existed, which sounded pretty good. And then
So you said that was a 10-year loan.
10-year loan, 100% loan, 2% interest.
Revenue,
She said it's, the pot is small this year, but it would cover what we're thinking about.
Right.
because they lost all that revenue from DIA this year.
She said but she said Colorado Springs has increased. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but that's like saying I just
I
doubled the
know,
number
but
of goats in
we
the.
have to be grateful for some increases during the pandemic here. The other thing she made us aware of is that there's a used equipment pool that CDOT maintains where we can acquire equipment from, say, Colorado Springs.
We've used that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess
Like a
Earl
lawnmower?
wasn't aware of that, so she definitely is gonna work with Earl on things that they need and they pay 80%, we pay 20%. It's already used and people get smoking deals.
How do we handle that with insider purchasing policy? They get a smoking deal on something that we really need, was unanticipated.
Uh-huh.
How do we respond to
So
that?
she said the way that they do it is her analogy, she was really fun to talk to, was they do it like fantasy football. So all the airports draw a number And then they go through what's available, they get to choose. And the price is fixed because they want to keep it so that the more affluent airports can't always outbid the smaller airports. So the price is the price, and when your number comes up, you can buy whatever you.
Well, how do we handle that here from our purchasing?
We'll make
policy?
sure it's, our policy addresses that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
because we've got that issue and other things.
And that should be an easy fix because it's the same concept that allows you to buy under a state bid without seeking other bids. So it's the same
Okay,
sort of process.
it's a great asset to have that available. I just didn't know if we didn't have some barriers around that.
Yeah, she had an incredible information about opportunities that we have, and she really believes in that airport's potential. And then last thing I wanted to say that we're going to set that water workshop. We talked about the discussion on water for next meeting. And I know, Jean, you were going to call the one gentleman and I
Yeah,
need
we're
to
gonna
get
call, I talked to
Kelly's.
Steve Keller
Oh, good.
and Corey's out of town, so I didn't bother him,
I-
but both of them said they would come.
Okay, good.
In the conversation with Corey, he'll be back next weekend, I think. A week from this weekend is when he's coming back from Arizona, so he'll be available when we.
Okay, great. That's it.
Move on.
So everything's complete, so I guess we can adjourn to executive session. John, you want to do the?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adjourn to executive sessions. Do you want me to do the pursuants? too?
Yeah.
Pursuant to CRS 24-6-402-4F for personnel matters. Also for 24-64024B for legal advice on specific issues, that is water rights. And executive session pursuant to CRS 24-64024B also to receive legal advice on a specific issue, and CRS 24-4024A to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of real, personal, or other property interest.
Judy, how do you turn this thing on?
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. Judy can close us down and
We will.
we'll take a
And
short
can
break.
I make a recommendation for process here for Aubrey? Knowing that you're coming back at 1:30 for your work sessions, maybe you just handle your public session right before that, like 1:15? So Aubrey knows when to come back.
Oh,
instead of-
if they're gonna vote, you mean?
Yes, because we are asking them to, so,
You're asking us to vote?
yes, back in public session after your executive sessions.
Yeah, that's fine as far as I'm concerned.
That way you have a known time to
You have
come
to
back.
run down for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, you gonna go home?
I'm trying to decide if I have time. Oh, shoot.
Would it be better for you, for them to do the first executive session first and then have you write back?
Shoot, it's up to you guys. Whatever is best.
Let's do that. Let's do that and
Do
then,
the
Because
first
it really
executive session?
traps her in her time here. But she does not have to be here for the work session. It's just this one item that we're talking about.
So the potential action you're being asked to do relates to your first executive session on personnel.
Okay,
So
so
you could
do we need to
conduct that
modify the,
That executive session first, go back into public, take your action, and then resume your other.
Right.
session.
so I
The
amend
other
my,
two
I
aren't
amend my
gonna result
motion
on-
then for an executive session pursuant to 24-6-4024F personnel matters.
Second. that.
Second,
okay, motion second, all those in favor?
all right,
Aye.
okay, so
In
now
that case,
Short pause.
short pause and how
let's
do
turn
we-
off our, owl.
how do we best reach you, Aubrey?
I can leave my cell number.
We're not gonna be that long.
Yeah,
right?
how, this
Oh,
shouldn't
okay,
take very
so-
long, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just sit.
This isn't gonna be an extended,
At least not mine.
you bring enough for everybody.
audio.
And what do we say about the pay on this?
I don't think you say
We don't
anything
reference
about
it,
that,
right.
no.
Okay. But that was part of the decision we have to make?
Just acknowledging it in the budget. is your
Right.
decision.
We're on.
Good. Good.
Oh, I got to, no, I'm doing
Yeah, we're, okay, we're coming out of executive session, re-enter this session, and there's no decisions made. There was some discussion. Discussion was on a position. We title it,
We're gonna call it, we can give it the title, right?
Yeah.
Executive.
Executive Administrative Assistant. Job description is complete. And the decision is to vote on it right now. So where do we stand on it?
Question, I do have a question, perhaps you can answer later. We're creating a new position. Does this trigger the hiring stuff?
No,
No,
you're not
no, no, no.
creating a new position.
Redefining a
You're
position?
redefining a current position.
Okay, so we're redefining the current position. I would move that we approve the redefining of the current position, executive administrative assistant, with the duties as described in the job description.
Second,
Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now we go back into executive session.
Yes.
Want a motion on that?
Yes, sir,
Um,
please.
So just for the public, you don't anticipate any more public action
Yeah,
once you're out of.
we won't,
this
we won't.
No, the rest of this is just.
Okay. And then the afternoon sessions are work sessions, which are public, so we'll resume the Zoom at that point.
At 1:30, but it's
Yes,
strictly work
at 1:30,
session.
but it'll be a work session. All right, we'll close out our Zoom again here.
I make a motion that we adjourn our regular Board of County Commissioners meeting for the purpose of entering into executive session for the purposes of receiving legal advice on water rights, CRS 24-6-402-4D.
I still have personnel stuff,
And for
no decisions.
24-6-402B to receive legal advice on specific issue, and CRS 24-402-4A to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of personal, or other real personal or other property interest. No decisions will be made.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can go home, Aubrey.
All right, I'm closing out our Zoom again.
That's official if the county commissioners tell you,